35 people or so on the line. Some are sort of internal, Albatrans team. We've got quite a few external customers, many of whom are using the WSSA insurance, but here to just learn more about, I think, just what's going on and prevention. So pretty good sign up amount for this type of webinar. And we always try to start promptly. I think people generally roll in a few minutes ahead of time, but we will be ready. I'll kind of keep track of as people are coming in and let them know we're here.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And Curtis, how do you like Mexico City?
I'll tell you, years ago, I love Mexico City. I could live there, but I have Mexican residency, permanent residency that I got years ago for legal reasons. That's to my advantage. I don't want to go to the angle of citizenship, but Mexican residency had some advantages to it. It has changed over the years. I love Mexico City as long as you can stay in some of those safer areas. Unfortunately, the places I go are the most seedy parts of any major city. So that's why we always have some law enforcement folks with us that are undercover. Makes life a lot easier for the gringo who stands out like a sore thumb. Doesn't matter how well I speak Spanish, I'm still going to have that Portuguese accent to it, learning Portuguese first. And so people immediately know that I'm definitely not from there. So I'm a little more careful in those areas. But I love Mexico City. If we didn't have what's coming up as our 9th grandchild, then my wife could have joined me there, but she's a little skittish about that. So we've just decided we're probably going to make a move to Arizona because we'll have 7 of the 9. And so we're now been here in Utah for 10 years, and that'll be a lot quicker for me to get down there on certain things, especially the border cities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an incredibly vibrant city and just, amazing the development. But what I don't like about it is the traffic too. I am known to get out of a cab and start walking and just like forget it. It's really, really incredible how much the traffic has picked up.
I've had the most seasoned New Yorkers and Angelinos complain about how bad traffic is, and I said, come with me for 3 days in Mexico City and you'll understand the concept of traffic. And then my good friend who's from Tokyo says, no, come with me to Tokyo and you'll understand what traffic is. So it's just crazy wherever you go.
Well, I think that that is the case. Everyone has to have something to complain about. So and in Mexico City, it's not usually the weather. So
it's not. It's not. And the tacos are great. And I demonstrate a fair amount of taco eating in my lifetime. So
excellent. Well, we're starting to have a couple people join us. For anyone who has joined online, you are joining our WSSA insurance webinar, first of the year. So just hang on. We will be starting promptly at 2 o'clock. So 2 o'clock Eastern time. That's in about 4 minutes. So and we will be chatting in the meantime. So welcome to anyone who's joined so far.
Yeah, Allison, did you ski this weekend?
I did. I was very fortunate. Went up to Saddleback Mountain where no matter the day or the vacation or the amount of snow, there's never anybody there. And it's my new favorite. I've converted to Saddleback just because of that. So Sunday was one of the best East Coast ski days I've ever had. It was
Snow globe.
Yeah. It was visibility got a little low because the wind started blowing, but it was just unbelievable. So very happy. I'm always happy if I can get outside, especially after weeks of travel and planes and trains and everything else. So feels good, but hopefully all the snow didn't blow away in the crazy winds the last few days.
Yeah.
We might get a little more tomorrow night.
I heard that.
We'll see.
And Rick, whenever you want to jump in or you got a highlighted point you want to bring up, please do. Anyone?
Okay. Yeah, sure thing.
And as said, for anyone just joining, we will be starting in just a few minutes. Just going to wait for additional attendees to join. And some people are rolling in now. So we will be just waiting a few more minutes. So welcome to those who are just joining. Actually, appreciating that people are joining. Sometimes so we get on and people, we've already got 20 people in the waiting room. So I think with this, everybody is so busy these days, and just appreciate people are rolling in now for this webinar, and hang on for a few more minutes and we'll get going. And good afternoon. We're having more people joining in. We will be giving it just a couple more minutes and then we'll kick off the webinar. Welcome, welcome to those who have been joining in the last couple minutes. We'll give it about one more minute and then kick this off. Well, good afternoon and welcome to our first webinar of the 2025 year. Can't believe we're already in mid-February. Thanks to everyone who is joining us today. As some of you have been on other webinars with WSSA and various speakers, and today we are very excited to address the issue of strategic cargo theft. Very, very timely topic. I think everybody in the last couple years and since COVID and onward has really experienced a higher level of cargo theft than ever in the past. So I think a very timely webinar. I thank our team at WSSA for getting this organized and getting the decks put together and getting everyone registered. We have Gretchen, our program manager, on the line. She is there for helping us out with all technical issues and jumping in to also get involved with any of the Q&A. We will have the chat open as well as ability for direct questions at the end. We also have Heather Randolph, our Director of Operations. I think any of you who deal with our insurance program have dealt with Heather and or Gretchen. Heather dives deep into all the claims. She works very closely on designing our program and continuing to build the insurance policy to be the best in class for this industry. So thank you, Gretchen and Heather, for being here. My name is Allison Levitt. I am the Managing Director of WSSA. I have been in the logistics industry for at this point, almost 40 years, the last 25 years specializing in the shipping of beverage alcohol. In my 40 years in the business, I have to say the last 10 have been some of the most tumultuous that I've ever seen. And this has been due to a combination of shipping issues, many related to the pandemic, regulatory changes such as CBMA, Craft Beverage Modernization Act, tariff threats that we've been confronting in the past and certainly in this current administration, and increased risks, especially with the cybercrime and organized crime. I'm really happy today to have two cargo insurance experts on the line. My longtime friend and colleague, Rick Bridges, one of the leaders in cargo insurance, a key partner for WSSA over the last 10 plus years as we have built our cargo insurance policy. Rick has an extensive bio. I think we get to have that on the screen a little later. Is that right, Gretchen? Oh, yep. Okay, good. So we'll get into his bio a little later. We also have Curtis Salisbury on the line with us, one of the best in the industry in investigating claims, finding the root cause, and advising companies on methods to limit their risk. He's been involved in this area for many years. We'll see a little bit more about him later. He has been focusing on Mexico and Latin America for the last 26 years and has a team of investigators working for him. He's on the road constantly, and we're lucky to have him here today. He's just back from about 3 weeks in Mexico City. I think he told us he only spent about 4 nights at home in the last few months. So we are glad to have him here with us today. So before we get started on the meat of the webinar, I always like to do a quick overview of WSSA and where we are today and what's going on in the shipping world. So our mission and core values have really remained the same as they've been since 1976 when we were founded. We were founded by WSWA and NABI, so the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers Association and the National Association of Beverage Importers. They wanted to have an association that would work with global ocean carriers to obtain competitive rates and services for beverage alcohol shipping. And WSSA was born, and that is still our primary mission, to negotiate those rates with ocean carriers and to bring those services to all of our members on a global basis. For any of you involved in import-export and talking about the ocean carrier world, we are in the midst of one of the biggest shakeups of the shipping industry in the last 10 years or so, with a complete realignment of the Ocean Carrier Alliance system. When you think of these big ships that are out there, and any of you who live near a port or have flown into Newark Airport or maybe visited Savannah, you see these massive vessels that are out there. And when you think of these big ships, you in one way can compare them to the airline industry, where they code share. If you book on American Airlines, you might be flying on a British Air flight. This is the same thing in shipping. We hold contracts with every global carrier, but on one week, the vessel may be owned and operated by one steamship line, and the next week it is a different line. The vessels are too big for any single carrier to fill them up, so they form alliances and share space. So at this point, and I won't get into the weeds on this, but it is just important for any of you shipping right now to know that these alliances are completely changing, and it is the biggest redeployment of vessels in the history of shipping. There's thousands of vessels that are getting moved around the world to realign with the new formation of the alliances. So if you notice shipping delays right now, blank sailings, which is our terminology for just a carrier canceling a complete sailing or omitting a port, that is going on excessively right now, and we don't expect things to be really back to normal for another 4 to 6 weeks. The new normal will look a little bit different, and we are producing a deck that we'd be happy to share with any of our members on the new schedules, how things are going to look out there, and it's something that we're keeping a very close eye on right now. The good news beyond the current delays and the very poor performance, which in reality is under 50% schedule reliability right now, is that rates have come down to those levels that they were in the pre-pandemic world. So rates are pretty good. We just need to get the services up and running and actually have service as a factor again in the shipping world. So our second pillar beyond the freight negotiation, ocean contracts, is our risk management program. So we run what we feel is the best available cargo insurance program for the industry. We cover over $1 billion worth of products, shipping internationally, domestically, and on all modes of transport, including coverage for duty and taxes, which is something that people can be concerned about as they look at potential tariffs coming up. The beauty of this group policy is that if you have a claim, your rates do not necessarily go up, as you are part of a massive cooperative. Furthermore, we have a team behind the policy, and people like Rick and Curtis, who are on the line today, who not only understand our business, but they actually investigate the claims. They try to find the root cause. They try to advise on prevention of loss as well. This is not available in most corporate or freight forwarder policies. So it's just an incredible asset that I think we can bring to the table along with this policy. And even if you're not insuring with us, we love to conduct these type of webinars to educate any and all of you about insurance, what it means, how it works, and in this case, what's going on in these really kind of dark areas of the world and dark members of society who are out there going after your freight. So the third pillar is really related to what I was just talking about, bringing this type of education to the industry. That is where we focus a lot of our energy. Our expertise is in the logistics and regulatory sector, and we send out constant updates on issues affecting the movement of cargo, whether it be port strikes, weather, congestion, any other matter on the shipping side, as well as regulatory and customs issues, such as what's going on with the potential tariffs, those timelines, the nuts and bolts of how they would be implemented. We collaborate with all of the other industry associations, from the Distilled Spirits Council and WSSA and NABI, I mentioned earlier, and the smaller institutions as well, from the American Craft Spirits Association, California Wine Institute, Women of the Vine. This collaborative effort is pretty unique in beverage alcohol, where all of the associations really work together to address the issues of the day. And I think that's one of the reasons this industry is so successful. Just touching briefly on our membership, we are a global organization. We have about 700 members in the USA and about 700 outside the USA. What attracts most of the non-USA companies to WSSA is the insurance program. It is not easy to get the type of coverage we offer at the price we offer. I can tell you almost every single company that we deal with that is an importer in China is insuring every single shipment that is shipped. And they are very, very, shall we say, insurance savvy. They will make a claim if there's one bottle missing from an entire container. But this policy is used worldwide by importers and exporters, has a lot to it. We've done many other webinars just explaining what cargo insurance is, what our policy is, what some of the differentials are. But today we are going to really focus on the rise in theft. So to kick this off, I am going to send it over to Rick to talk about some of the latest statistics and kind of setting the stage for Curtis to come in and really give us some detailed information on what is going on in terms of cargo security. So you can see by Rick's resume here, there is a wealth of knowledge, and I tell you, there's nothing wrong with being an insurance geek. It's a real necessity in this world today, and I have learned so much from Rick over the years, and he has been such an asset to our program at WSSA. So Rick, all yours.
Thanks, Allison. I guess like the freight industry, the cargo insurance industry is full of surprises. There's always something new, whether it's general average or steamship lines going out of business or hurricanes. But today we want to talk about what I see as one of the most significant shifts in how thieves are stealing freight. And Curtis will define what strategic theft is, but what I can tell you is it has been an epidemic that is unfortunately not going to be going away soon. But it is one that I think we can all try and combat collectively to manage the exposure. But like someone has said in the past, it's going to take a village to do it. And I think we have a lot of the components on this call today, but it's certainly going to be an issue where it also takes you as a shipper to help manage that risk. And hopefully we can get through it. But certainly very topical and one we want to spend some time on. What I want to cover first is really the statistics. You know, what's changed? How has strategic theft really created an issue? A lot of these stats are from CargoNet, which is a cargo claims reporting agency that gathers data. Pretty good information. So Q1 24, we've seen a 40% increase in cargo thefts compared to the same period last year. And in last year, we saw a similar increase. So we've seen year after year huge increases in cargo theft, largely strategic. And it has been a significant issue. Q3, 430% increase in just strategic theft incidents year over year. So it doesn't matter what we're putting 430% in front of, that's a significant change, and one that is really being felt within the entire industry. So from a dollar perspective, 2023 CargoNet reported that thieves stole over 44 million in goods. Unfortunately, alcoholic beverages, wine, beer are some of the most attractive commodities that thieves are targeting, clearly because they're easily sold to the consumer. Okay. Within the US, North America, average loss per shipment grew 83%. So thieves are becoming smarter at identifying larger valued loads. Instead of putting themselves at risk for low value, they're going for the high value. And Curtis will talk about, how they're finding that information out and how they're becoming better thieves, and more efficient, if you will. So what does that represent as far as economic loss to the US? $12 billion. Much of it's uninsured, a lot of it's unreported. It's a significant drain on all of us, even as the consumer, because we're all paying for more. And then largely, these are inside jobs or somehow related to information getting leaked out from your organization, intermediaries, or from suppliers. Okay. What are the trends as far as commodities? I mentioned liquor, wine and beer, but anything consumers are going to be desiring: computers, footwear, food products, low value apparel. These are all really high on the wish list of strategic theft and these thieves. We'll talk more about this, how they're doing it, but like the world with AI and advances in technology, thieves are using technology themselves to better hide themselves. Some people are calling this the perfect crime because it is so difficult to get to the real perpetrators that are pulling the strings. And really what we have still in this world is a very layered supply chain where thieves can insert themselves at various layers or multiple layers. And we still have some relatively unprotected weak links in the supply chain that we'll talk about how maybe you can help improve to make your cargo a harder target for these thieves. Okay. Is this just a US issue? Certainly not. The same problem is occurring in the EU, where we've seen a doubling in theft, especially as you get closer to Eastern Europe. Again, thieves are targeting high value cargo. They're not going after the low value stuff. It's no longer the quick smash and grabs. As you can see, Germany being close to some of these bad actor states, they lead the way, but France and Italy is also seeing significant increases. Shifting to South America, significant change here in the way cargo is stolen and the value and the amount. It is almost following the issues that we have here in the US, but double-digit increases, especially within Mexico, Chile, Brazil, and Argentina. Specific to Mexico, certainly cartel-driven. You see Puebla and Curtis, help me there.
Guanajuato?
There
Guanajuato,
you
yes,
go.
yes.
Mhm.
Jalisco. Guanajuato, the state of Guanajuato.
Curtis is the guy I'm going to have order anything off of a true Mexican menu when I am in Mexico. Thank you both. So what we're seeing is a significant increase in truck thefts, hijacking, theft of the entire truck. It just disappears, oftentimes along with the driver and the co-driver. And to that point, a lot of this is turning to violence, and that is how the thieves are really getting drivers to turn over the freight. And it has been a significant shift. So unfortunately, looking at stats on commodities, 63% within Chile is food and beverage, and within that number is wine, and has been a significant shift in Chile, where in the past it has been relatively safe. Go to the next slide. All right. So, and I do apologize. I'm getting over the flu. So, if you hear some coughing, that's me. It's on me. But I'm going to turn it over to Curtis.
And great, as you can see again from Curtis's brief kind of resume here, lots of experience in this industry. The language fluency obviously helps when he's in these areas doing investigations. And really has some incredible insight in terms of what is going on out there with strategic theft and cybercrime. So Curtis, thank you so much for joining us. And just another plug for Curtis, he will, his team, not necessarily him, he's got a lot of people who can help any of our members or companies learn more about these risks and understand how to mitigate them. So if any of you are interested in further education for your companies, you can come to us and we can help coordinate things like that. So over to you, Curtis.
Wonderful, Allison. Thank you so much. And Rick, sure appreciate it. It's an absolute pleasure to be with Rick and the team of professionals at WSSA. Transit Risk Management has done a number of cases for the folks at WSSA for the benefit of its clients, and we appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. It's a real pleasure. I think that on this slide, we're going to see some of the challenges that are there with cargo theft that we've had for decades. And in the past, law enforcement used to view cargo theft as kind of an insurance civil matter, because their argument always was, well, one of your folks gave it to somebody else and then it ended up missing. That's really nothing in our jurisdiction. And then you get to the jurisdiction where it was found and they're saying, well, how do you know that it was stolen here? So you can see the difficulty when it happens. So years ago, the insurance industry, along with private industry, decided, hey, let's create these cargo theft investigators that are typically retired law enforcement. We've got a CIA fellow with us. We've got somebody from the FBI. We have a lot of former state law enforcement. So we've expanded the reach down into Latin America, where I spend probably 85% of my time. That other 15% is in the border states. I think that today the professional investigators are benefited by the fact that law enforcement understands what we do because they have authority and they understand what we do. And we'll start our investigation because we have basically funding resources to be able to do that. And then we can package a deal, take it to law enforcement and say, here's what we've discovered. Why don't you folks check out what we've got? And we're very close friends throughout the United States. There are cargo theft teams. Unfortunately, during the pandemic era and a lot of the protest times, not to get the political side of it, but there was a long decrease in state budgets for law enforcement. Now, with all the crime that's been seen both in the United States and foreign, those budgets have been increased, and we're starting to see cargo theft teams be recreated in certain states. The largest cargo theft contingent in the United States is in Southern California, but they've got teams in Atlanta, teams in Jersey. There's a new team being created again in Chicago. There used to be a very robust team in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and in Memphis, there's a Kentucky task force that works with both Tennessee. They do a fantastic job. So there's a lot of professionals involved in this from the investigative side and many professionals from the supply chain side and the insurance side that are all central focused on this. And WSSA is one of those great companies that we work with to investigate these matters and help your risk assessment and risk management.
And just to interject there too, as you guys know, anyone out there who's had a theft, your trucking company is not necessarily going to do a deep dive. The steamship line's not going to do a deep dive. They don't have the resources. They don't. I don't want to say they don't care, but they really don't care. And so, using companies like with Curtis, it makes a huge difference to us in both mitigating claims and preventing them. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think just give you a brief history here that goes along with what I mentioned previously. In 93, obviously, the internet was launched, Amazon launched in 94, and load boards came in. Now, the good news is that I think one of the folks attending this seminar here today or webinar today is Albatrans, and I understand that you folks don't use load boards or try not to when you can. Let's overview the load boards really quick and talk about a few of those points. Load boards are just an online platform, for those of you who don't know, for truckers and everyone, freight brokers, truck brokers, to post their loads and find carriers, owner operators, independent truckers. They need to find freight to haul, and small and large trucking companies, they need to fill that backhaul so they're not coming back empty. And then the shippers, and some shippers choose to post loads and don't use a truck broker. Popular load boards include the DAT load board, those that you see, 123 board, direct freight services. And we work with all of those companies as well as those freight brokers that are involved in this process. Unfortunately, the negativity about a load board is that there's a lot of fraud that's involved with that. And we'll get into that as we get more into strategic theft. So pre-technology, pre and post technology types of cargo theft. Pre-technology, there was an awful lot of what we call straight theft in the industry. Straight cargo theft methods are real simple. You see something, load boards were not used to troll and find out information. The other thing is that it was more of you had to be present to make the theft. Nowadays with strategic theft, there's an awful lot of folks that are working from a computer in a foreign country that have the ability to steal your load out of Ontario, California, with it going to New Jersey. Insider knowledge was usually needed to execute the crime. And then equipment needed were things as simple as bolt cutters, a Slim Jim, a set of keys, and a weapon if it's going to be a theft by force. Fencing operations were used to move the goods. And late deliveries, when you heard about a late delivery, it was very typically the truth. Got snow, got issues with their equipment, there's poor operating procedures within the company, or there was a driver issue. The driver had the flu, he's got to stay in a hotel or in his tractor for a few days. Straight theft is categorized by these simple areas. A straight theft is an opportunity or random. So theft by opportunity, a trailer sitting at a warehouse and somebody from the inside knew that that trailer is sitting there loaded over the weekend. A trucker pulls into a truck stop. He leaves his rig running. How many times you pulled in to get gas at a truck stop or grab a bite to eat or get a soda, and you hear all of these tractors running with connected trailer. The rig is sitting there and there's nobody in the rig. He's inside using the bathroom. He's grabbing a bite to eat. They're not going to shut him down. And that is how straight theft happens a lot in the United States when it occurs. And then targeted theft of a load is where somebody they sit at a warehouse and they know what comes out of that warehouse. It's a 3PL facility. It might be a manufacturing facility. And they know that at some point they're going to get out of that tractor trailer. They're going to get out of that rig and leave the load unattended, and they're going to steal it. And then finally, we've got two other things, which is theft by deception. We'll show an example of container deception here. And the other one is theft by force. Theft by force does not occur typically in the United States. Think of a standard truck driver in the United States, some of these big and burly guys and some of these small gals, but all of them are very careful with their own security. But law enforcement is a quick 911 away typically. Most law enforcement agencies in the state where there's a lot of cargo theft have highway patrol units or state police close to those trucking facilities so that they can implement immediate reaction if there's a problem.
Curtis, I'll also add too, thieves are smart and they recognize if there's an assault in the US, they're going to jail, right? If they can do it without that assault or do it without being identified, that's where they're going to spend the time.
Exactly. The consequences are different, and there's a lot of different issues why these thefts of violence and theft by force are so much higher in foreign countries. And a lot of it has to do with just certain cultural issues in certain areas. And let me mention this regarding straight theft, and we'll see a video about it. No theft occurs of a major load in the country of Mexico, Brazil, Honduras, Costa Rica, you name a Central American country. Now we've got issues in Colombia, Argentina, and Chile. Those thefts do not occur by a local gang without the explicit information and direction of a major cartel. That's how it happens. And if you take action in Mexico, for example, without authorization of the Sinaloa cartel, and you're operating up Highway 57D through one of their territories, and you steal something without their authorization, you won't be around long to steal. And I hate to make it so dramatic, but that's exactly what happens. I think we, in the United States, for those US listeners, we get a little comfortable with how things are. We don't realize the level of violence that has happened in some of these countries, that especially in Mexico has come up through our southern border, and the types of cargo theft that occur. I'm going to show you a video here. This is a theft by deception. We could pause it right when that rivet comes up, if we can. That's a tough one, I know. Right there, thank you. So this is one of the thefts by deception with the container. And what they do is the seal is attached, but what they've done on the back side is that rivet point that secures it to the inside is cut off. And then once they take it out, in order to replace it, they'll put a bolt in there or something that screws in tighter. And sometimes they rig it so in the future, the nut is on the outside, the bolt is on the inside. So if they ever need access to a sealed container, go ahead and continue the video. You'll see that they can open the door without breaking the seal, get what they need, they'll pilfer the load, and then can reseal the door, making it look as if nothing has occurred. Down in Chile is an excellent example that was a WSSA case. In that case, they used a 3D printer to print a fake seal that looked very similar to the seal that was placed. And when it got into the port, there was a clerk at the port who illegally would cut the seal. They would steal part of the load, pilfer part of the load, move pallets forward to make it look like it was full in case it got inspected by government authorities or customs. And then they would put that fake seal back on. And by the time it got all the way to the East Coast of the United States and on up towards, I believe it was Canada, that's when they realized the load had been pilfered. So straight theft also has its deceptive practices, but it is no longer the main way of theft in the United States. However, in the countries I mentioned, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, most of these thefts are still by the straight cargo theft nature. In the United States, in 2023, I'm giving you some old statistics to show you the history here. This was provided by Overhaul, and these statistics match CargoNet, both excellent organizations for receiving this type of information. In 2022, a hijacked cargo theft happened 1,090 times in the United States. In Brazil, it happened 16,331. Keep in mind 2 points. These were reported. These were not what actually occurred. In Mexico, 20,131 times in 2022. When 2023 came along, it was over 24,800, and we're already in a fast pace in 2025. I was called into Mexico City during the month of January on 4 cargo thefts, and the total of those thefts was over $7.5 million. So it's a very rampant problem, concern throughout these countries. And here's the most interesting statistic. In the United States, cargo theft by hijack is basically if a truck driver left that rig unattended and there was no violence. Cargo theft by hijack in Brazil and Mexico is men force a truck over to the side, put guns to the driver's head, take him out of the tractor, sequester him for 6 to 8 to 10 hours, steal the load, abandon the truck, and release the driver. When opiates or pharmaceuticals are involved, the fate of the driver is much worse. So just some statistics to let you know how serious it is and how serious it's gotten. I'm going to show you a case that happened, just a video that had some inside the cab and outside the cab. Go ahead. Audio isn't important here. What's important is to watch what happens. This is the view, obviously, from the cab-mounted camera. Notice the bobtail truck in front. It doesn't have a trailer. Those 2 cars are stopping traffic. The assailants come in, and you can see there's multiple armed assailants. This happened at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in June of 2021. And here's the view of the drivers of the same event. The driver and his co-pilot. The co-pilot makes the mistake to go to the back of the cab to try to alert his company what's going on. The other guy has his hands up. He comes back to the front, and you'll notice right here, he ducks back. They shoot a bullet, which hits through that window and comes and puts the mark on the front windshield. That gentleman, a good friend of mine, was the investigator on this. And that gentleman was beaten severely, hospitalized for more than 2 weeks. The other gentleman who did nothing raised his hands. They just put him in the car, sequestered him for hours, and released them both. I believe it was 11 hours after the theft. This entire operation took place on what you would consider a major freeway. The 95 back east, the I-5 in the United States. There are spotters at each bridge, and they make certain there's no law enforcement in that section. This took place in less than 60 seconds. As you can see, there is the bobtail tractor, which was utilized to perpetrate in case they hit a kill switch, or in other words, disabled that tractor. The bobtail can drag the tractor out of the way and connect and haul the load, and they would leave the other tractor abandoned. The gold vehicle had the assailants in it, and the other vehicle that pulls up to the side is the one that forces the truck to stop. And it was at this moment, he's in the back. There's the driver with his hands up and the co-pilot. Next slide, please. And this is the moment that red arrow indicates where the bullet came through the window and almost ended his life. We always recommend when we're counseling trucking companies, do not try to be a hero. Put your hands up, do everything they say, be safe.
Pretty chilling. And I think the only, kind of the perspective on it, when you look at those numbers and they seem massive, but, we also have to know that there's over 30,000 trucks a day that are moving into the USA. So if we actually look at that, 20,000 hijacks, I mean, it is a lot. It's over like 60 trucks a day, 65 trucks a day, which is incredible. But there's 35,000, say, moving. So percentage wise,
it makes the number minuscule. You're absolutely right,
yeah,
Allison.
but it's, if you're one of those 63, and to me, 63 a day is still a lot of hijacks or a lot of thefts, but yeah, it's really, really frightening to see these, to see what is going on. And we know it, we see it. We've had many, many losses, and, and this violence is out there. So thank you. Go ahead.
Post technology, we started to see a lot more strategic cargo theft and its evolution. Excuse me. Supply chain theft, cargo theft, supply chain disruption. Load boards have taken the place of the insider information, mostly. The internet has taken the place of the rudimentary burglary tools. They're using the internet to take this strategic approach. Targeted loads, as was mentioned by Rick, are alcohol beverages, computer chips, computer copper, electronics. The interesting thing about these targeted loads are during a low economy, food and beverage is the #1 cargo theft item in Latin America. Construction materials is #2. Technology falls way down the board, but food and beverage is so easy to move. And a lot of times folks don't investigate it because it's a consumable. When they get it back in the United States, because it was out of the care, custody, and control of the proper authorities, a lot of times those are destroyed. I had a load of Coca-Cola in southern Texas that was stolen, and I thought it was Coca-Cola. I got there and found out it was tea bags, dry tea bags, all sealed. But because it was out of the care, custody, and control, after a full recovery of the load, I also escorted that load to a town in Texas where they burned the entire load. It was a total loss based on the fact that they could not certify, and Coca-Cola was not interested in having that back in their stock for obvious reasons.
I think that's another really interesting issue where, many of our customers, again, high-end brands, people who are product integrity is incredibly important. If that seal has been broken, if anything has been touched, their policy is to say it's a total loss. We don't want it. And, that's really tough for cargo insurance because, determining, is that really a loss?
Absolutely.
Very, very tricky area there.
I think when I first entered the industry years and years ago, I was frustrated by say, well, there's nothing wrong. And one of the Marine attorney turns to me and said, would you like your child to drink this Coca-Cola that's been tainted? And I thought, wow, okay, you made your point. Yeah, it's a total loss. Easy, easy. Next slide, please. Thank you. Cargo theft, as I mentioned previously, is part of major crime organizations. Nothing happens without a cartel being involved in Latin America. Let me explain why. The three aspects of a cartel, their number one goal is to traffic drugs. The second thing that they do is traffic human beings, either for labor or sex trafficking. And the third thing they do to fund their operations is cargo theft. There's a market called Tepito in Mexico City. Tepito is the black market. I've been there many times, but only with law enforcement. The first time I was down there by myself, kind of poking around. And in the Tepito market, they're going to notice a gringo. And a gentleman grabbed me by the shoulder and asked to escort me outside. And I said, what seems the problem? And he flashed his badge and told me he was an undercover police officer. And it looks like you're working on a theft here because you're in the wrong spot. Now, years ago, I learned that lesson. And I was taught how to go in there and what to do. I don't go in there anymore. We send Latins in there because a guy like me kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But in the Tepito market, it's very easy to sell anything you want to sell. And there are similar black markets within Mexico or in other countries that are very easy to distribute these products. And again, food and beverage is so easy to get rid of so quickly. And the amount of funds they make for the easy access to the theft is incredible. Bad actors focus on all types of loads. Doesn't matter. It's a full trailer load. It's a less than load. It's a full container load. It's a partial container load. They will look at absolutely everything. Strategic pilferage is something else we'll talk about and how they do that. And local crews or bad actors operate across state and international lines. No longer is the Sinaloa cartel a Mexican cartel or the cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the new generation Jalisco cartel out of Guadalajara area close by. These cartels are international. They operate in all countries. Similar to the recent TDA, we've heard so many reports about Tren de Aragua that operates in Venezuela. They're operating in Chile. They're operating in Colombia. They've infested the entire South American region. Stolen locally, sold globally. Spin-off crimes includes ComCheck and T-Check. For those of you who have been involved in that, it's basically getting a code to steal money, deceiving the shipper or deceiving the broker that, hey, I don't have enough fuel to make it. And they'll steal $3,000 to $4,000 in one hit and then move on. And they never were at the warehouse. They never picked up the load. It's just they got inside information and were able to provide that to get a ComCheck or a T-Check by identifying themselves as the legitimate driver. Late deliveries now are nothing more than stall tactics. Typically, of course, there's a driver who has the flu. Of course, he's going to have a truck breakdown. But this should be a red flag to all when somebody says, hey, I'm not going to be able to deliver to tomorrow morning. To be safe rather than sorry, you should ping and know exactly where they are. And sometimes we've been as aggressive to notify law enforcement to go by and see that through our associations with law enforcement to see if the driver's really there. Because a lot of times they're just buying time and they are completely someplace else. These former...
Sorry, I'm just going to tell you that the team at Albatrans Mexico, it's kind of amazing the amount of work that they have to do to track these trucks. I mean, they keep track of every single move. They are looking at it every day. So if it's moving from Jalisco to Virginia or to Michigan or wherever, I mean, they are updating the customer every day, keeping in touch with the trucking company. And as you know, you'll talk more about these brokers and whatnot, but you know, using those assets, using asset-based truckers and knowing the trucker. So definitely something that takes a huge amount of work. And I think that's something that, again, people are busy. So that's,
yes.
Anyway.
And we've had the pleasure of working with Albatrans on the Chilean cases we did. Also on the, I believe it was the tequila out of Mexico loads, and then the Laredo. I think it was mezcal in Mexico and the tequila out of Laredo that Paul Meyer, our retired FBI agent, worked on with you folks. So we're very pleased to work with Albatrans and all that they do, and they're very supportive of us.
And Curtis, too, I think it's a good point to make that, certainly if there's any interest, using terms like pinging and, tracking, for a deeper dive, certainly that's what we aim to do, right, with the individual members is, offer that consultancy, to see where improvements can be made. And
Absolutely.
bring some, understanding to the technologies and the things that work, the things that don't work, to try and avoid this altogether.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Rick. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some examples of strategic cargo theft. They use fraudulent documents, insufficient tracker signage. They purchase DOT and MC numbers. That might shock a lot of folks, but you can buy a trucker's MC DOT number by buying the trucking company, and you get to maintain those numbers. That creates a lot of problems in the trucking industry for cargo theft. So the government is now looking at that. There's a bunch of bills that folks are considering, but nothing has yet happened to stop thieves from telling a Kurt Salisbury trucker, hey, you got an old truck, you got an old trailer, I'm going to pay you 50 grand for that. Well, why? Because your DOT number is important to me. Your MC number is important. So let me give you, I'll give you $5,000 a month for 10 months. And let's just sign a bill of sale. Then I can contact them. They can contact FMCSA and change the phone number, do some things, go pick up a load and steal a $250,000 load, abandon the tractor trailer. And the man is out his tractor trailer who lives in Kansas, who just wanted to get out of the business and retire. Those are the types of nefarious activities that take place on a daily basis, Next, please.
And Curtis, we're seeing that to the extent where thieves are spending $500,000 to $1 million to buy a legitimate trucking company and running that trucking company in a legitimate fashion for 5 or 6 months, and then one day flipping a switch once they have all the cargo in the places that they want, and within 2 or 3 weeks, they've amassed $30-40 million worth of stolen freight.
And you've
So
just
it's-
pointed out a regular thing that we deal with in Mexico. A large trucking company is affiliated with a cartel for a period of time. When the
Mhm.
major players get out of it, they sell it to another group that says, hey, I'd like to buy this trucking company, and they legitimately buy it. Then a cartel comes in and says, hey, we're going to buy this for even more money. We're going to get involved in this. And they'll run that operation complete with 3PL facilities, cross-dock facilities, transborder facilities, you name it. And then they will simply dump it, put it bankrupt, and do whatever they need to do. But they're sitting on 30, 40, 50, $60 million worth of product in their warehouses. Exactly. Today, we're going to concentrate also. Thank you. Great comments. I appreciate that. Today, we're going to concentrate on fictitious pickup by fraudsters and also misdirection of freight. We'll talk a little bit about the pilfered loads, but this is an ever-evolving method and trends. I attend approximately 6 law enforcement type conferences a year simply to stay on top of what they're seeing and what we see. And we all attend these conferences to share information. And it's amazing the type of cargo theft that goes on. I will quickly go over these documents just to show you. Next, please. When they're going to steal a load on an internet load board, and thank goodness you folks don't have a lot of that, they're looking for some key points. He's on the load board and he sees that it's a high value load of 250,000. It's 2,700 miles away. Here's the rate of 2,000. They're going to pay me. Oh, I see it's going from Ontario, California to Miami. Oh, wonderful. Let's bid on that. So a call center in Armenia or Chechnya will bid on this, and they'll have 25 agents send different trucking bids from registered companies they have in the United States that are registered as legitimate trucking companies of either identity they've stole or trucking companies they've created. They will then order someone else to go pick it up, and they know that they've got from Monday to Thursday. They got a lot of time on their hands to get rid of it. On Thursday, they're calling to say, where's our load? Well, on Thursday, they pick it up. On Monday, they deliver it, and it's not there on Monday. And there's a lot of questions as to why. Oh, the truck broke down, the driver got the flu, whatever. It allows them time to move the load quickly where they stole it out of Ontario, California. They went into Fontana, into a warehouse, unloaded it. They hid the tractor trailer, got it off the road. They're using jamming devices so that you don't know. And sometimes they'll stick a driver in an empty load and just send him across country to make it look as if they're still delivering the load.
And Curtis, I'm going to quiz you. What happens on the weekends?
The weekends is where they hit warehouses, especially when you get a holiday weekend. A holiday weekend is horrible. Everybody's off. Nobody really wants to work. And everybody's kind of taking the chill pill when the cargo thieves are out there in mass hitting warehouses, hitting 3PLs, hitting cross-dock facilities. They're stealing tractor trailers because the driver wants to take the Saturday, Sunday off, and he's parked it in front of his home. And somebody stole a $1.2 million load about 3 months ago because the driver was tired and didn't need to be to destination until the following Wednesday. This one here shows pilferage. It's just an altered POD. I want to quickly go through this. This altered POD is basically big companies that don't do a good job of in their receiving, and POD is critically important. I'll make this one comment. You can see that there were 2,313 cartons. They only delivered 1,572 on the altered one, 38 pallets. They only delivered, I believe it was 25 pallets. So little by little over months, they pilfered this. The key issue is we're too quick at the receiving point to sign a POD, proof of delivery. We need to simply say this. If the delivery driver does not stand there to confirm the load and you can confirm the paperwork, what you do on that POD is signed. The driver was in a hurry. We did not get a chance to inspect it together. And you sign that, but you're signing it with prejudice, under protest, however you want to put it. But you need to let somebody know that the proper handoff did not occur and that you've got to get on with your job and you couldn't stand there arguing with the truck driver. I would highly recommend that because in the insurance industry, that's one of the first things they want to know. Was the POD signed? And did they accept the load based on that? Any comments, folks?
Well, I'll just come in. I mean, we had literally had that exact conversation yesterday with one of our members, and they were just talking about the warehouses are busy. They don't take the time to count the cases. They don't look at things. They are just signing off, and then they're not discovering a theft for months. And I think you're going to talk a little bit about speed, but it becomes much more difficult to make a valid claim when you've signed off something free and clear. So. Very, very good point. Yeah. It's probably one of the best tips. And even though we've said it over and that anyone could take away from this, when receiving cargo, try to check it. Do the best you can to verify. And if you don't verify,
driver say something that says he was in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the low-hanging fruit, right? Whether it's the acceptance of freight or the release of freight to a trucker, validating who the trucker is, getting pictures of the truck license plate and all that stuff, that can be done for relatively easy ask. And if it's third-party warehouses, you can contractually obligate the warehouse that you're hiring to do that. And it's putting skin in the game for them. If they recognize that they're going to be liable if they don't do that through an SOP in your master services agreement or simple contract, that they become liable, maybe they then take more attention to your freight than some low value cargo that they're moving at a quicker pace.
Agreed.
These are the small things that I think we can do that add up to help change the problem that we have here.
And good instruction costs nothing. You're not paying for technologies or things. It's just simple operating procedures that help you alleviate the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't alleviate the need for insurance because these people all have limited liability, but it certainly makes the process for if you're filing a claim much easier. And it just does hold everybody a little more accountable. So, I mean, we want our goal to keep this massive policy, keep the costs low. We want to mitigate risks every step of the way. So it takes a village. I think Rick said that. Or Curtis said that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Rick did. Absolutely. I think the key point here on this Collier certificate of liability, and I thought Rick brought up a great point previously. Rick, this is regarding a certificate of liability insurance. When you get a trucker that you're vetting, please don't accept, and Rick made this point, fantastic point. Don't accept that Collier, that COI from the trucking company. Contact their insurance company and tell them you'd like the COI in this company. In our investigations, I don't want to say it happens all the time, but often we find out that this is an altered document, and the bad guys basically bought a trucking company. They altered the document to show that they were insured for 1.2 million or $1 million for the load, and they changed and altered the document, and it's a false document. And the insurance company says, that's not, we don't know this guy. We don't know this company, and they've never been insured for this amount. You might look at the DOT number. They said, oh, that belongs to Kurt's Trucking. That terrible guy, Rick, stole it from him. And we try to explain that. That doesn't work. So there's a lot of issues here. A certificate of liability should be requested by the insurance company to the insurance company when vetting a trucker. Tremendously important. Great point,
Mhm.
Rick.
Yeah, and just real quick too, I mean, if you are managing a lot of truckers, there are third parties that'll do that for you, whether it's registry monitoring, insurance services, there's a whole host of them. They manage that complexity for you, and they can even give you basically a portal for your operations team where it's red light, green light. If they don't have a certificate on file, you can't hire that carrier to move the load. So it makes it that easy.
Folks, this FMCSA discussion is quite simple. It's just that, as I previously mentioned, once they've purchased a trucking company, they can change whatever they want, and they're nefarious actors operating with authority, according to FMCSA, and that law's got to change. Next. I'll just quickly go through this. This is just something simple. Picking up your facility, if they don't have a logo on the side of their truck in the US and they don't have a DOT or MC number, don't give them the load. This is not a professional signage. And we've seen this. This was one that the gentlemen were actually arrested because somebody was on their toes, but they'd already stolen multiple loads before we caught them putting this S&S Express on the side of their truck. And California Highway Patrol, CTIP, Cargo Theft Investigative Task Force, are the ones that worked this case with me and Jeff Hall. And it was a tremendous arrest, but it's silly what we sometimes allow. I'll just give you some quick points of this in that case study I'll race through. Allison, why don't you tell me time frame? Right now we're about 5 to the hour. I don't want to interrupt anybody's schedule.
I think you just, there's a few more slides, is it, Curtis?
Yeah, we'll just
Yeah.
go through a few
Yeah,
slides.
let's just go through it. And I understand too, if people have to drop off, we did say an hour. We usually, again, try to keep to the time, but there's a lot of information here, and I know we've all been interjecting. So let's just we'll get through it and understand
Not
if
a
people do have
problem.
to drop off. And again, if people who are on, if you want to throw it, if you have any questions, throw them in chat, and we'll address them. And if
Very
you
good.
have questions after the fact, just email WSSA and we'll get answers for you and email you back. So
Very
thank you.
good. Thank you, Allison.
This is being recorded, right, Allison?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Very good. Bad actors are interested in the high value loads from any source. What they do is they present themselves as either a freight forwarder or a freight broker, a legitimate carrier or trucker, and they contact the other side to say, hey, I'm Kurt's Trucking. I'd like to work for you, Albatrans. I know you don't do it this way. Albatrans. I then misrepresent myself as, say, TQL, a freight broker. And I say, hey, I'm TQL. Contact the trucker. We'd really like you to work for us. Give me your carrier package. I then fraudulently create my own carrier package, send it to the real TQL, and TQL goes through its vetting process. A great company, but if it gets through, then someone is able to misrepresent themselves. And now I'm really sitting in a call center in Chechnya, Armenia, and I'm assigning legitimate truckers to pick up a load because I have A, access to the load, and B, I have fraudulent documents. And I might even contact the very trucker whose identity I stole to haul the load. So you can see that Ford and freight brokers then unsuspectingly authorize fraudulent bad actors, truckers with easy access to the goods. Fictitious pickups and misdirection of freights. This is an important point, not for the fictitious pickup, which is how they falsify documents and create a scenario. But keep going there, please. Why don't you pull all the slides up on this one? I want to get to the bottom here. Misdirection of freight by cargo thieves. They might contact a good carrier and say, hey, this is a blind shipment. We'll give you the directions later. Or we'd like you to deliver to this. Anytime you have someone come to your facility, it must be made very clear that misdirected loads can be hauled in the same day, the same hour from a cross-dock facility, and within minutes your load is gone and you'll never see it again. So misdirection of freight of cargo thieves is an intentional act typically perpetrated by foreign or remote domestic criminal organizations utilizing stolen identity to pose as the legitimate trucker, the legitimate broker, or the legitimate forwarder. Next slide. This case study I'm going to race through because there's not a lot here. This was, and we can just stay on this slide, my friend. This went from picked up in Carson, California. It was then moved to an area close by a bad actor. They then assign a legitimate carrier to go from point 1 to drop a load of solar panels to point 2 and 3. Then he gets paid, the legitimate trucker. Then the nefarious trucker, another one in the East Coast, delivers it from point 2 and 3 to point 4, which was a warehouse in New Jersey. Why don't you go to the next slide and we'll just go through these. Go to the end there, please.
Just real quick too, I asked Curtis earlier, was this my client that we had hired you to do that investigation on? And he said no. So this is happening multiple times. And this
Correct.
was almost the exact routing of my particular client's stolen freight.
What's interesting is the truck that picked this up at a legitimate facility, at a legitimate 3PL, who's a very good company. The security guard didn't stop him. He had no company door placard. There was no DOT or MC number, not authorized for carriage. And the guy just pulled in with the tractor trailer. Come to find out the tractor itself had been stolen and nobody did anything at origin or this could have been stopped. These additional slides are some prevention tips for your advantage. We don't need to go through these step by step, but these are all fraud prevention tips because we are short on time, but they're designated for high-risk shipments. They're warnings to freight brokers and carriers bidding, the red flags that come up, vet the certificate of liability, things we've already discussed. Next slide. And these are fraud prevention tips on secondary vetting at the facility, ways that your receiving officer or your shipping officer can identify the trucker that's there to pick something up or maybe drop something off that's been stolen. And the final one, our fraud prevention trips, misdirection of freight strategies. This is so important. Do not allow your freight to be misdirected. Have some type of consequence for a misdirection of freight. They should report it back to you that the freight forwarder or the broker said, hey, deliver it to another location. They should contact the shipper, take it back, and it should be immediately reported to law enforcement. This is one of the things that is rampant in Southern California. I currently have 4 cases in Southern California near the San Diego border that I'm dealing with on this very problem. Next slide.
Next slide is the end.
I raced a little bit, folks. I apologize, but the thing's recorded and you can have it. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about this. Any comments, folks?
We had a couple quick questions come through on the chat. And I think the second question that did come through really was about, how to deal with these PODs and when, for example, if a driver is not allowed to view, to enter a warehouse, to actually see what's going on. And I think in any of those cases, it is that a notification right on the documentation that, no ability to verify, whatever it might be to show that that this is, shall we say, an open situation. So I think that is one of the best tips that we've talked about. I know we are just a minute over, not bad. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I want to thank all of our speakers for participating and the crew for organizing this and for all of you for attending and staying on the line. I hope this didn't scare you too much. It scared me a little. So again, we have to
reality is a good thing, Allison. Reality is a good thing.
We have to put things in perspective and realize, despite, again, the incredible amount of theft, the majority of our freight movements get from point A to point B safely. And so I think that there is a lot of care taken by the beverage alcohol industry. People are using high security seals, they're using tracking devices, they're using different types of closures for containers. Most of the warehouses that are used are specifically for beverage alcohol. So again, I don't want to say there's less risk in our industry. We are a highly targeted industry, but I think we do a pretty good job in trying to mitigate it. And said, really appreciate all the comments today. We will have this recorded. We've gotten a few requests for getting a copy of the recording, so we will share it for anyone who's interested. And again, thank you to everyone, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.